Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Miller, hemp products, including CBD, were removed from Schedule I status in the 2018 Farm Bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Since the 2018 Farm Bill, have private companies attempted to enter the market with hemp and CBD products for the American people?
Absolutely.
Do you have any data on the size of the CBD market?
There is considerable data in my written testimony that we've shared with the committee.
The FDA has not regulated hemp-derived products, including CBD. In the 5 years since the 2018 Farm Bill was passed, has the FDA's lack of action impacted the hemp industry?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned earlier, the lack of action has cast a shadow over the industry. There have been, it's kept a lot of big box stores from carrying products that they otherwise would. It's kept a lot of big food and beverage companies from adding CBD to their mixes. And as a result, there was a decrease in demand when the supply went way up, and as you've seen, Economics 101 by the chart I shared earlier, the prices collapsed, and farmers are bearing the burden.
That's right. It's affected farmers, too.
Farmers worse of all.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Henderson, you're the lead toxicologist at 3 published scientific papers analyzing data from studies of CBD isolate. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Your studies were designed to determine the levels of CBD at which you would observe adverse effects?
That's correct. Yes.
In addition to your research, are you also aware of other scientific studies on CBD that would be available to FDA regulators?
Yes, I am. Data on CBD specifically are plentiful. CBD has been evaluated as a drug, as we know, Epidiolex, and so FDA has access to the clinical and non-clinical data packages submitted as part of that review. It's also my understanding that FDA has commissioned and has been conducting their own targeted safety studies on CBD. There are other human clinical trials outside of Epidiolex with other CBD formulations across a wide range of populations. And in addition to our studies, there are other studies that have been conducted by stakeholders that aren't published yet. And then there are other preclinical safety-related studies that are published. So there are a lot of data that we typically don't have access to when reviewing an ingredient as a dietary supplement.
Right. So, Mr. Miller, given the availability of scientific data related to CBD, would you agree that the FDA is not doing its job here by saying there isn't enough data to proceed?
Correct. There is enough data to pursue a regulatory pathway for dietary supplements and food and beverage additives.
So, has the FDA at least been transparent with stakeholders as to what it needs to move forward with regulating CBD? And if not, how so?
Well, as I mentioned in my testimony, we don't think a new regulatory pathway is needed, but we would be happy to entertain or so even support additional regulatory safeguards above what's currently under law. But the FDA has not specified those in a way that's allowed members of Congress to draft legislation to accommodate that.
Right. Mr. Badaracco, I'm very concerned with that without FDA regulations, products mislabeled as CBD that are adulterated with other substances will continue to be available and potentially present a danger to the public and even children. Can you describe some of what you are hearing in the law enforcement community about the dangers consumers may face?
Well, I have, when I knew that I was testifying at this hearing, I had caused a solicitation email out to the members of KNOA, which is 400 members within the state of Kentucky, to if firsthand or anecdotal reports of these intoxicants being ingested by middle school children or high school children, and what the adverse, if I will, results were.
Right.
And I am continuing to get reports from across the state. I know in far eastern Kentucky, there's a police department. There's been so many of these instances that's their number one priority now with these substances.
Right.
I've got 2 physicians from 2 hospital ERs. I haven't talked to them yet, but they want to talk to me as well as far as what they're seeing.
It's a huge problem. We see that everywhere. We've seen that in other products that claim to contain CBD, and there's no regulatory body to regulate that. And very seldom do I, as a conservative Republican, advocate for regulations. But what you have in the hemp industry, you have a lot of credible actors that are doing the right thing, and then there are a lot of bad actors. And when I say it needs to be regulated like a nutraceutical or the vitamins or things like that, you go in and the bottle of supplements, let's use as an example, it says how many milligrams of this and what's in the supplement. The FDA to make sure that what the label advertises is what the actual product is that the consumer gets. And that's what we're asking for here. Right now, there's no one to determine whether or not someone selling CBD is being factual when they advertise what's on the bottle. And that's a threat not just to the industry, but to consumers as well. So hopefully the FDA will do that. Madam Chair, thank you, and I yield back.